Welcome to Guardians for Dummies, where I will teach you all you need to know about the 2025 Cleveland Guardians. From farm to the Major League roster, I'll tell you everything you need to know to become a super fan of the 2025 team. If you're not a fan, sorry, but you can stick around and maybe I can change your mind. In case you missed it, last year the Guardians won 93 games and won the American League Central, and then they defeated the Detroit Tigers in the ALDS in 5 games, and then unfortunately lost to the New York Yankees in the American League Championship Series. Starting off with catchers, we have two main options, Bo Naylor and Austin Hedges. The Guardians brought back Austin Hedges this year on a 1-year, $4 million deal. To primarily be a veteran presence in the clubhouse. He's a very good defensive catcher, but he cannot hit to save his life. Their starting catcher, however, will be Bo Naylor, who was a highly touted prospect in 2022 and 2023. He came up and was very good in 2023, took a little bit of a step back offensively in 2024. He'll look to bounce back with new catching prospects coming up through the organization. The Guardians also have Dom Nunez in AAA as depth. First base has a chance to be a strength of the Guardians this year, despite trading away all-star Josh Naylor over the offseason. They brought back Carlos Santana for his third tenure in Cleveland, following his first Gold Glove and a very solid offensive season in Minnesota. Carlos Santana was a very interesting hitter last year, as he favored lefties heavily with a 161 WRC plus compared to just a 96 WRC plus against the righties. Also at first base is former top 50 prospect Kyle Manzardo. Following a rough start last year, Manzardo was sent down until coming up in September and absolutely mashing with a 147 WRC plus in the final month of the season. Jhonkensy Noel might also make some appearances at first base, but I'll talk about him with the right fielders. For the most part, it'll be Carlos Santana at first base every day and Kyle Manzardo at DH. The Guardians also traded away Platinum Glover Andres Gimenez this offseason, leading to a very enticing position battle this spring between Juan Brito, Gabriel Arias, Angel Martinez, Tyler Freeman, Daniel Schneemann, and even first overall pick Travis Bazzana can be thrown into the mix. Right now, the favorite is Juan Brito. Despite having a slow spring training start, he was a favorite coming in, and since everybody around him has also had a slow start, he remains in the lead. Gabriel Arias is also in the conversation. He is a very, very strong defender, and he has a lot of power, but the swing and miss does hurt him. Angel Martinez and Tyler Freeman have both shown flashes at the major league level. They also do get looks in the outfield and center field. Daniel Schneemann also has a shot, but he has 3 minor league options remaining, so if I had to place a bet, I would say he's starting in AAA. Following a very strong October, Brian Rocchio will lock up the shortstop position, at least for this year. Rocchio was not a very great baseball player in the regular season last year. He was fine defensively, but at the plate he just could not get it going. But as soon as the calendar flipped to October and the game started to matter, he turned it on. He became a completely different hitter, going from a 79 WRC plus in the regular season to a 164 WRC plus in 10 games in the playoffs. He was one of the main reasons the Guardians got as far as they did last October, and he's continued to build on that this spring with a 1.372 OPS so far. Look for him to continue that production that he had last October. At third base, of course, is Jose Ramirez, the face of Guardians baseball. Thanks to a rainout at the end of last year, he was not able to go 40-40-40, but he came very, very close. And this year he will try to get his MVP, and I think he can. He's always going to be Jose Ramirez. The only question is if he can show up in the playoffs. Right field is another very interesting position battle to watch. The two main candidates are Jhonkensy Noel and Will Brennan. It's very likely that this will end up being a platoon between the two. But also some other names in there are Petey Halpin, Jonathan Rodriguez. We could also see top prospects Chase DeLauder and George Rivera later in the year, but they are both out with injuries right now. Jhonkensy Noel, better known as Big Christmas, had a very good October last season, coming in clutch several times. He is a very big boom or bust type of hitter, but he has had some very promising exit velocities in spring training, having multiple balls hit well over 100 miles per hour. Will Brennan had a 109 WRC plus against right-handed pitchers last year, but he is likely on his way out with a couple strong lefty bats coming up. If he doesn't do good well this year, he will likely be replaced. Lane Thomas, who loves the first pitch, will see most of the time in center field this year. He was acquired at the trade deadline last year from the Washington Nationals. After struggling initially, he really turned it on in September and had a very good postseason with some very memorable home runs, especially in that ALDS. He is a free agent at the end of the year, so he could be a candidate for an extension or potentially, if the Guardians are bad, a trade. Left field is locked down by, as you can probably guess, one of my favorite players, Steven Kwan. Kwan won his third consecutive Gold Glove last season while also being one of the better hitters in baseball. While he's very known for his hit tool, his power also started to come around last year as he hit 14 home runs, and if he played 162 games, he would have been on pace for around 20. He is one of the best leadoff hitters in the game and one of the best left fielders in baseball, and he is a staple in this Guardians offense. Oh, and he's also a D-man on the chessboard. In 2024, the Guardians had the best bullpen in all of baseball. Their rotation, however, was one of the worst in baseball and ultimately led to their demise. Last year, the Guardians had 4 of the top 15 relievers in innings pitched with Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, Emmanuel Clase, and Pedro Avila, all with well over 70 innings. Many of these struggles had to do with injuries to key pitchers like Gavin Williams and Shane Bieber, and the Guardians spent much of their offseason adding some more depth pieces and some solid starters. So let's meet them. Our ace for all of the year will be Tanner Bybee, who was our only consistently good pitcher last year. He started 31 games for us, 173.2 innings, and a 3.47 ERA. He was very good. He will be very good again. He's one of my favorite pitchers. Our 2 pitcher, Gavin Williams, struggled with injuries last year. He was a little rough in the time that he did see, but he's looked electric in spring training so far, and he had a very good rookie season, and he's always been a highly touted prospect. Ben Lively shocked a lot of people last year. He was actually very solid with 29 games started and a 3.81 ERA. He looks good in spring training so far, and he will be a very good middle-of-the-rotation starter for us for most of this year. In the 4th spot in our rotation, we have Luis Ortiz, who we acquired indirectly from the Andres Gimenez trade. In Pittsburgh last year as a starter, he had 86 innings pitched with a 3.22 ERA. He looked very good. He has not looked great in spring training so far, I will admit, but I have faith that he will lock in once the regular season comes around. Tristan McKenzie had a breakout year in 2022 with 191 innings at a 2.96 ERA. Since then, he's struggled with injuries and inconsistencies, and he has not looked great in spring training so far. But his fastball velos are up. If he can figure out how to locate those, we know he can be a very, very good pitcher. So he's going to hold down this 5 spot. And the Guardians brought back Shane Bieber this winter. He looked like a Cy Young lock in his first 2 starts last year before going down with Tommy John surgery. You can expect to see him back in around mid-July, and hopefully he will give this rotation a much-needed boost halfway through the year. They also brought in John Means from Baltimore. He has looked good every single time he's pitched, but he has struggled with injuries, and he's also coming back from Tommy John surgery around the same time as Bieber, maybe a couple months later. Other rotation options that will start in the minor leagues are Duck Nikhazy, Slade Ciccone, and Will Dion. The Guardians had one of the best bullpens in history last year, with the big 4 of Emmanuel Clase, Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, and Tim Herron all returning. They also added Paul Sewald, who was a very good reliever a couple years ago with Seattle, and the Guardians pitching lab will hopefully turn him around. The Guardians will also get Trevor Stephan back, who didn't pitch in all of 2024, but was very good in 2022 and 2023 before going down with Tommy John surgery. The Guardians will be managed by Stephen Vogt, who is entering his 2nd year as a manager, coming off his first manager of the year. The Guardians brought in a new hitting coach this year, Grant Fink, who will replace Chris Valaika. Their pitching coach is Carl Willis, who has been with his team for a while and is part of the highly regarded pitching lab in Cleveland. The Guardians brought back both of their base coaches, Sandy Alomar Jr. at first and Ruglis Odor at third base. The Guardians have so many amazing prospects, so I'm just going to give you a few at each level to keep an eye out for if you're visiting that ballpark. In Lynchburg with our single-A team, the players to watch are outfielder Jason Chorio and infielder Waylon Francisco. Also keep an eye on Jackson Humphreys and potentially getting the call-up during the season, Braylon Dowdy, our first-rounder who went 36th overall last year. High-A Lake County captains have some very interesting prospects as well, with former first-round pick Ralphie Velasquez, 2024 minor league baseball strikeout leader Matt Wilkinson, former last year's 2nd-round pick Jacob Cozart, along with Angel Gino. In Akron, the prospects to know is Khalil Watson, who we got in the Josh Bell trade, first overall pick Travis Bazana, who will likely start the year here, Cooper Ingle, who is a top catching prospect for us, along with Parker Messick, who we could see in the major leagues this year if he does well. AAA Columbus is loaded with potential major leaguers, such as pitchers Slade Ciccone, Franco Aleman, Doug Nikhazy, and others that won't make the major league rotation. They also have hitters such as Micah Prees, Chase DeLauder, and George Valera, and Juan Brito, who could end up making the Major League squad at some point in the season. I put these players at the levels that I think they will start the year. Obviously, I'm not as smart as the Guardians organization, and there's a good chance that some of these players start at different levels and move up through the year, but these are just a couple of the prospects that you should look out for. I think it is fair to expect that the Guardians will be a playoff team, but I would not be surprised if they had a slow start as they wait for key players like Shane Bieber, John Means, and Chase DeLauder to come back off of the injured list. You can expect the starting rotation to be improved from last year, but maybe not quite the quality that you were hoping for. It's also fair to expect that the bullpen will be back to their elite status, as they didn't lose too many pieces. Keep an eye on how long our starting pitchers are staying into the game, because they are largely going to determine how good our team can be this year. If we are struggling to have our starting pitchers go deep into the games, our relievers are going to be overworked once again, and we saw what happened in October last year when that happened. Keep an eye on Brian Rocchio, who is looking very good in spring training after having a very successful postseason. Also keep an eye on Bo Naylor, who really needs to break out soon. Another thing to look at is how Stephen Vogt will manage the bullpen after they got overworked last year. It's also his second year as a manager, so hopefully he'll be able to make some adjustments and make us even better. We also got a new hitting coach, so it'll be interesting to see how his policies fare. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope I was able to teach you a thing or two about my favorite team. Have a great one, and go Guardians.